Thank you, folks, and welcome back. Thank you for participating in our conference this year. This afternoon, I will be going over the NDC Reservation tool and document type. Once again, my name is David Mazyck. So today we have a handful of objectives that we want to accomplish. First and foremost, we're going to talk briefly about the reservation file and the required elements for that file, for that document type. And secondly, for the time frame for submitting the file and what's required for that time frame. And then finally, the importance of use of that registration file and how it helps our agency as well as the stakeholder. So here's some of the benefits of using the NDC reservation file. Specifically for pre-launch activities, when you're pre-printing labeling for the product prior to that product being in commercial distribution. Once the NDC is reserved, it can be held for up to 2 years once it's been accepted. Thirdly, it helps prevent some of the duplication errors that we've been finding and formatting errors that we've been finding. One of the common errors that has been corrected over the years would be the NDC configuration, but the NDC reservation will help mitigate some of those issues when it comes to submitting an NDC for a specific labeler code. And then finally, for your CMOs, for your contract manufacturers, for those contract manufacturers responsible for submitting on behalf of a private label distributor, or using that NDC reservation to submit on behalf of the PLD. This is a tool that will help them facilitate that action. So who should reserve an NDC? As I mentioned, when you're participating in pre-launch activities and the NDC is going to be on the labeling, this is a good tool to use to make sure that you're using the correct format for that NDC for the particular product. Also for contract manufacturers who are responsible for submitting the drug listing for their private label distributors. And then finally, in an instance wherein the final characteristics of that product are unknown, but yet you want to assign an NDC, and this is earlier on in the product, in the life cycle of the drug product and drug submission. So, and then when we talked about physical characteristics, obviously the color, shape, and imprint information. When that stuff is unknown, this is a good opportunity for someone or for a stakeholder to use the NDC reservation tool to lock down an NDC. So now, when should the NDC reservation be used? Once again, for pre-market labeling issues or labeling instances wherein the NDC appears on the labeling, and then obviously prior to final labeling approval and printing. Oftentimes companies in the past have had issues again with formatting of the NDC and or configuration issues with the specific NDC. And then finally, the reservation is not required for an actual listing. So this file is not a prerequisite for a complete listing. If you're ready to market a drug, you have the correct NDC, it's been validated, go ahead and submit that actual listing. The reservation is not a required file or a precursor for an actual complete listing. And then finally, in an instance wherein a product is not going to be launched for more than 2 years, then you don't want to use an NDC reservation. The reservation is held for up to 2 years. So you want to avoid using the NDC reservation in an instance wherein that product is not going to be marketed for 3 years. Here's some key elements or nuances of the NDC reservation. The labeler code that is used in the NDC reservation has to be a valid labeler code, has to be a labeler code that is recognized by our system. And so the firm needs to go in and electronically claim that labeler code and or apply for a labeler code that has been submitted electronically. And finally, here are some of the data elements required for the NDC reservation: the labeler name, the labeler DUNS, the NDC prod code, and that NDC prod code encompasses the labeler code and the product number, the non-proprietary name, dosage form, marketing status, and the reserved until date. And then finally, one active ingredient. These are the required elements for an NDC reservation. And as we mentioned, the NDC under the same labeler code can be reserved, or NDCs under the same labeler code, that reclaimed labeler code that's already in the electronic system. All of the drug products can be submitted under one file for a specific labeler code. And then once that NDC is proposed or accepted, then it's reserved. The reservation occurs at the product level. NDC is reserved at the product level. As we mentioned in the previous slide, that one of the main components is the combination of the NDC prod code, which is the labeler code and product number. No packaging information is required. And then finally, there are no other additional information required for an NDC reservation beyond the prod code. Here's some further key points on the NDC reservation. The marketing status for all reserved NDCs is deemed new or reserved. To convert an NDC reservation SBL to a listing SBL, that status has to be changed from reserved and or new to active. And then a reserved NDC that is no longer needed can be canceled. You can cancel that NDC if the reservation is no longer needed. To cancel an NDC reservation, you would merely change that marketing status from reserved to cancel. There's some more key nuances to the NDC reservation document type. The cancellation date corresponds to the submittal date for the NDC reservation. The NDC reservation cannot be used for another product. That reserved NDC cannot be used for another product. Obviously, once you reserved it, it cannot be used for another reservation either. So it's unique to that particular product that you've reserved up to 2 years. And then finally, once the reservation has been canceled, then the NDC can be placed back into your inventory of NDCs that can be used for other products. But keep in mind that the reservation has to be canceled. And this is slightly different from when a product has been discontinued. And my colleagues will go over the nuances of discontinuing a fully listed drug product. But in this instance, we're talking about the reservation file. Now, in this presentation, I will not go through a demo of the NDC reservation. I just wanted to show you the screen where the actual reservation resides and some of the nuances on that screen from the CDER Direct page. So now let's jump into our challenge question. Challenge question number 1. Which of the following data elements can be excluded from the NDC reservation file? And the answer to question number 1 is C. The package code information is excluded from the reservation file. The other 3 elements, the active ingredient, labeler code, DUNS, and name, are required fields. Question number 2. Is the NDC reservation required to facilitate the listing submission? And that means a complete listing submission. And obviously that is false. The NDC reservation is not required to complete or facilitate a complete listing submission. So let's go forward to question number 3. True or false? Is the reservation data published on the NDC directory? And that is false. Keep in mind, the reservation is not a complete listing, and only completed and validated products that are currently in commercial distribution will appear on the NDC directory. So in summary, the NDC reservation file or document type should only be